Kia ora everyone. As you know, I get pretty excited when I come across New Zealand companies doing amazing things. And especially when they are companies that have just been doing it for many decades and they just get the job done. And I'm pretty stoked to be able to have one of them here with me now. And I've got the CEO of MADCAP, Desley Haas, and the MADCAP Technical Director, Jeremy Ridley. Thank you to you both for taking the time to let me squeeze some pearls of wisdom out of you both, and especially some insights that perhaps other New Zealand companies can benefit from, because I think your journey is pretty amazing. For those of you that don't know the MADCAP journey, and who you are, how about we just start with some brief introductions. Desley, if you want to start.
Hi, Kai. Thanks for having us here today. Appreciate your time. My name's Desley and I'm the CEO here at Content Group. I've been here for about 26 years. The last sort of few years as CEO. Before that, basically a general manager, involved in many aspects of the business.
Awesome. What about you, Jeremy?
Well, I've been here for 30 years, Kylie. This is my 30th year in October. So I came here straight out of university, and I came here as a kind of a support programming type person when I had my first job. And so I'm still here today doing this, well, doing a different role, but the same company.
Awesome. And can I actually ask you both, prior to MADCAP, were you already in the agriculture industry? I mean, did you have a farming background at all?
No.
Oh, sorry.
I've got a commerce degree in computing, basically. Yeah.
Brilliant. What about you?
Yeah, considering Jeremy came here, it was his first job when he left university, so he's been here a while. No, for me, my background, I mean, I am actually a horsey person, so I've always been loved animals and out in the countryside. And just my grandfather happened to be a dairy factory manager, and some of my family on my father's side had dairy farms, so I did know a little bit about dairy farms. But basically, I came to the business more from a business side rather than the agricultural side. So
Brilliant. Brilliant. No, I love that, because I'm trying to encourage people to know that you don't necessarily have to have a farming background to be, play a significant role in agriculture themselves. So no, that is although the 30 years and that's quite a significant time. So tell me, can you give me the elevator pitch? Like, what is MADCAP? Desley, do you want to share that with us?
MADCAP's a milk supply chain management solution. So we digitize the supply chain right from the farm to the factory. And that doesn't sound like a huge job, I'd say, on the face of it, but it's actually really, really complex because it's a mission critical system for our clients. And so we do that for dairy companies around the globe. We're in like 28 countries at the moment to date. We do it from the smallest dairy company to the largest global dairy companies in the world. So yeah, it's quite diverse. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was looking up some of the facts, and I mean, because you've been operating since 1974, is that correct? That sound about right? But as you just sort of mentioned, 28 countries, over 200,000 farms that collect 160 billion pounds of milk, worth over $40 billion of payments annually. So we're not talking, small things here. Jeremy, do you remember what that first jump into the international market looked like? Like, who was that and what country did it involve?
Well, I wasn't actually here at the time. I turned up slightly after that all happened, but it was in Australia. So Australia is obviously, a country that New Zealand is quite familiar with. So that was a logical step, I guess. And when I started here, we had a number of clients in Australia that we supported remotely using modems and things like that back in those days. And we also had a client in Fiji. I don't exactly know when that happened, but we still have that client in Fiji. Right. And so we operated in Australia and have majority of the market for a number of years, and we didn't really look outside of New Zealand and Australia and the Pacific Islands for a long time. And what we actually did was when we rewrote the system in around the year 2000, or just before the year 2000, we made a bunch of trips. So I went to the UK, and I went to the US, and I went into Asia and a few other places, and we established that the dairy industry worked quite differently all around the world than it did in New Zealand. And so when we were redeveloping it, we made the decision to develop like an international system, so that when we wanted to go to different countries in the future, then we had the capability to do that, rather than setting ourselves up for redevelopment at that time. So that is kind of how we established that we could operate in the international market, and that's really helped us as we have gone forward. So what we did was we never had marketing people in any other countries apart from, well, actually we didn't have any marketing people at all until a few years ago. But what we used to do was contact companies directly, and we managed to secure a few customers in America doing that. And we always had a relationship with Nestlé, as an example, because they used to operate in Australia before they closed down in that country. So we had a few Nestlé sites in the Caribbean, so in Trinidad and Tobago and the Dominican Republic and Jamaica, and who had contacted us directly. And Nestlé globally were going through a process of rationalizing their systems, and our system came up as one of the options, because it was already there as in one of their operating countries. And so they did contact us after evaluating a number of other systems, including SAP, which they are the biggest customer of in the world apparently. And so they came to us, and they evaluated us, and they established that we were the only ones that were going to be able to operate in all the countries, because of the work that we'd done previously to ensure that we were going to be able to do so. So they had a number of systems, around 20 different systems and 20 different companies providing the same services to them across the world. But because the legal requirements and all those sorts of things are different in every country, none of those systems were able to provide them what they needed. And so they chose us to do that job for them.
So being a company on the other side of the world, a very small company like New Zealand, wasn't a roadblock. It was actually the technology that was the selling point, right? Did it matter that you were from New Zealand?
No, it didn't matter. I mean, and at the time we discussed with them whether we should be opening hubs across the world with our own people in it to support them, and they didn't like the idea, because obviously that was going to be expensive, and their preference was for us to remain here and have our skilled people together to provide them the support that they needed. And they have quite an extensive network of support services that they leverage internally, and so their preference was to train those people and have them route any problems they couldn't deal with back to us.
So Desley, I mean, that's obviously quite a obviously Nestlé encouraged that to sort of keep within New Zealand, have your base here, but it's also a bit of a strategic business decision, isn't it? To, like, most people go, oh, we're going to set up an office here and we'll start sort of populating the world, but that's not how you guys have approached it at MADCAP, is it?
No, I think what we did was, because we already had the entire, basically, New Zealand and Australian dairy industry market, they could, and New Zealand is really, obviously well known around the world for technology in dairy and in other areas, but especially in agri-tech in general. And so, you know, because we export most of our product, we've always had to be very innovative and make sure we had efficient systems, and also be able to have systems that can track quality very well. That was a very important thing. If you're going to be exporting, you have to be able to prove that, you know, you've got the highest quality, and that milk and product has to be traceable. So, and you can't really do that without having a fully digitized integrated solution. So we'd already proven that we could do it then. So I think that gave them a big confidence that, well, hey, you know, if they can do it there and be successful around there, then, you know, we can prove that we can do it for them as well. So, but yeah, the decision to do it from here, you know, I think a lot of companies, you know, that's very risky if you trying to put a lot of resources into a lot of countries around the world, all have different, have to set up all these different companies and different, you know, tax laws and employment laws and deal with all that, you know. But also one of the main things for us is we really felt like it's such a big system and complex system, and it has to be to work well and to not be too onerous for the supporting side. You know, it has to be robust and work really well. And if we've got the whole team together, we all help each other. You know, it'd be very hard. We see it'd be very hard to train people up to the same level of expertise. They just can't get that when they're not here with all their other people, you know, who've got all these different areas of expertise, and we help each other a lot, you know. So we do a lot of multitasking here.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, obviously you have what I would term as an incredibly envious customer list of practically all the who's who in dairy around the world. And obviously many of them are probably competitors with each other. How do you keep that sort of security of information, that sort of the competitive piece, I don't know if you'd call it siloed, or, you know, the assurance of the customers that, you know, information's not going sideways, but vertically. Yeah, how does that work? I'm not sure if that's you, Jeremy. Is that a
so, you know, we offer clients, you know, the ability to have their systems in the cloud, or they can have them on premise. So you know, obviously if they're choosing them on premise, they are in charge of, you know,
right,
their own data. It's got nothing to do with us. If it's in the cloud, if it's on one of our shared systems, then, you know, we have the security in place to keep that information separate, and we've done that, for many years. So that goes all the way back into the 80s and 90s, because a lot of our work is done in independent laboratories which manage milk for entire countries. So all the milk in New Zealand and all the milk in Australia is managed through two laboratories. Okay, and MADCAP is in both of those, and they're servicing all of the dairy industry. So everybody has their data in the same system, but it's all kept separate. So we've never had any problem with that. And we also keep the IP for specific companies when they request it, completely separate, both for their, you know, commercial reasons and for our management reasons as well, because obviously, you know, the more complex the system becomes, and the more modifications and things that go onto it for different customers, the harder it is to manage. And so we've got a good way of doing that and keeping things separate.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you're also able to utilize your experiences to improve your own products, right, across the, you know.
Yeah, well, the dairy industry is kind of, a lot of it is the same, but so, you know, we develop in the common areas that people want us to develop, and that benefits everybody. And we also develop specific things for specific people where, you know, where they need them. So we are learning all the time. We do get feedback from all of these customers, and, you know, we listen carefully and stuff. And that's one of our advantages, I guess, over everybody else, is that we have this globally diverse client base that we can learn from constantly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pleased to hear you mention that you're learning all the time, even after almost 3 decades. You're learning all the time. And actually, given both of you have almost got, you know, 3 decades under your belts, if you look back sort of almost even just 10 years ago, what have been some of the, the significant changes you've seen in that dairy space in particular that have, impacted the technology or made you have to pivot or look at other things? Like, Leslie, have you got any on the top of your list?
Well, New Zealand dairy industry and Australian dairy industry are obviously, well, we consider them to be the most advanced by quite some margin, and so 10 years ago, 20 years ago, the dairy companies were all after automation and automated communication with farmers, and basically doing the least amount of work with all of that data that they could. So as much automation, as much low touch, exception management, and all that sort of stuff is what they wanted, and so that's what they got. But if you look around the world now, you'll see a lot of countries that still operate on spreadsheets and manually enter stuff that comes out of fax machines and all that sort of stuff. And so we are operating in very different markets where some are very advanced and some are a long way behind and still operating manually. And so, we have to provide the ability for those people to step up, and we also have to provide the ability for the more advanced people to continue to move forward.
So I'm guessing you have to have a fax machine in your office to be able to speak to those businesses that have fax.
Oh no, we don't have fax machines here, but that's how some of those people communicate. So it's just the way it is, and so we encounter all sorts of things all over the place, and so that's the attraction to us overseas, is that we haven't just automated a very manual system based on a bunch of faxes. We have thought about the automation part of it and everything as well. So that's one of our advantages.
What about you, Desley? What have you seen?
Well, nowadays it's all about sustainability, which is it's a word that encompasses so much. Really, it just means being able to be there in the future, and so obviously to do that you have to be able to be efficient and optimized. So digitization is obviously the way to go, as far as you need that, because nowadays they're all talking about a lot of trends like AI. Last year it was data integrity, and also analysis of your data, which obviously all makes a lot of sense. However, you can't actually do any of those things if you don't have access instantly to accurate data. So, and the only way you can do that is to have a fully integrated digital system, really. So and then of course the sustainability, they talk about checks and balances and compliance. So they have to they are putting the pressure around the rest of the world now to have more, with quality, and to be able to provide, accurate information that and actually show that you are complying with all these different new rules that they've got around the world, and for, reducing emissions and that sort of thing. So once again, you need a fully auditable system, and be able to track that compliance.
Yeah, and so, I mean, obviously, on a slightly different tack, Desley, you've, as a CEO, it's obviously not all roses and chocolates and fluffy puppies and beauty. What have been some of the hurdles or some of the challenging points that you've seen that you've had to sort of, overcome over the last few years?
Well, I think, when you grow, it's, you always increase, you see more challenges. Like, for example, when your team's smaller, it's easier to manage. And I think that's really important, that everybody works together. The bigger you get, the harder it is to maintain that, and for your staff and for your customers, So we've always said, okay, the only way we can succeed is that if we've got very happy customers who can be our references. And that's what we've, before all this, sort of social media and digital marketing came around, that's what, you just relied on, was more sort of word of mouth, so, that was really important for us. And obviously we want to keep them happy, but for us, it's that's what we do every day. Like, we're there to make sure that they can run their businesses properly. And because it is mission critical, we can't have them, you know, where they can't carry on paying their farmers or tracing that quality of milk, or things aren't working properly. So we need to be there and to be able to resolve any issues, you know, whenever they need. So yeah, the challenge has been, as we grew, to just keep the same focus and be able to look after the customers and look after our staff. But you know,
yeah. So I mean, it's a little different because you already have a stellar customer base. But do you think, I mean, you know, Jeremy, you mentioned earlier about, you know, in those early years it was door knocking and, you know, going up and establishing a face-to-face relationship. Is that still can you still do that these days? Is it still a thing with everyone else who are all the players and all the different companies? Is that still a relevant access to potential customers, or do you think it's actually changed in the last couple of years?
I don't know. It's not really my role anymore, but I think it probably is. If you know, the way we used to do it is we used to contact people, and if they were looking for a system, we could sell to them, and I'm pretty sure you could still do that today. But the way that things tend to get done today is that, you know, there's a marketing campaign and, you know, follow-ups and all that sort of stuff, which I don't tend to, you know, it's not my role anymore, so I don't do it. And so I think that, you know, that process is more expensive. Obviously, it takes longer, and we've only, you know, been doing it for a few years now, so, you know, we're just starting to see the results. So, you know,
yeah, but it's funny because I mean, you mentioned you didn't have marketing till actually recently, but it certainly has not hindered your success rate. So I think there's obviously, if you take the marketing out, I mean, there's a strength there in MADCAP that obviously got you across the line with all of these customers. And I mean, it's obviously your secret sauce. Do you know what that is?
Well, I think it's well, it seems, you know, it's always been word of mouth for us, as Desley said, and the dairy industry, even though it's a huge industry, it's actually, you know, it's a small place because it's made up of a lot of big players, and they tend to all talk to each other, and they all have the same problems. And so I guess over the years, what we've done is we've just, you know, been reliable and been available and been at the right price and provided good services. So, you know, we get the recommendation, I guess, and then people come to us.
Yeah, I think part of that secret sauce is the design of MADCAP, and of course, you know, Jeremy's been responsible for that because you know, it's got to be a system that's really robust, but it's also, as we said earlier, it's got to be highly flexible and configurable. And if you don't design that correctly from the beginning, it's not like, you know, it's a huge system and you can't, you know, get partway down the track and then all of a sudden people want us to, you know, clients need to be able to do certain things, and we like, oh, we can't do that now because we didn't make our system flexible enough, and now we're going to have to rewrite it, or we're going to have to, you know, try and put that in there, because, you know, to have your system scalable, everything has to be well designed, and so, you know, that's I believe our secret sauce. Nice.
And yeah, anyone watching this, yeah, it's building those strong foundations, right? And having a product that actually works, works well. Do you have any sort of top tips that you could share, Desley, with other New Zealand companies that are trying to follow in your footsteps? And maybe it's not even in dairy, maybe it's, you know, they're following in other sort of agritech spaces, but have there been some, you know, some top things that you would absolutely recommend they do, or other CEOs in your position?
Well, I'd say what we've done is, you know, we've just worked hard and never given up, and keep thinking, okay, and we always sort of strive to be the best. We want to be better than all the rest, and we have to be, otherwise, like you say, we wouldn't get all these customers. And I think that's one thing, you know, in today's digital marketing and that sort of thing, there's a lot of you know, competitors popping up out there, and of course they can say they do the same as us, and they can make it maybe look prettier or whatever, and people, that's why it's actually harder, I suppose, for the customer out there to to actually, maybe they have to just do their due diligence and work out, and we say, you know, when we're talking to them, well, you know, we believe the proof is in the pudding, and look at our customer list, and that's all we can do really, and hope that they, you know, that's enough to convince them, and then we can show them what we've got. But yeah, I mean, you can spend a lot of money and try and expand maybe too quickly. I mean, maybe we've taken longer than other companies would have, but you know, our goal was to be here and to you know, to succeed. So that was our method. You know, that's how we've done it.
I think you can pretty much tick that box for sure. And I mean, and actually, Jeremy, you mentioned earlier that in those early days you did travel and you explored and you looked at what the rest of the world is doing. Do you still do that now? Is it still a requirement?
Not so much, because we're kind of established in all those areas now, so we know what happens in particular countries, and so as a result of the Nestlé contract, then you know the word of mouth is starting to spread in some of those countries, and so they're coming to us as well now, and or you know, we've contacted them and they recognise who we are, or whatever, and you know, we find that the same thing that we've done for Nestlé, as an example, is the exact same thing that these other companies want, because it's the same country and it's the same laws and it's the same rules and all those things, and so it seems that we're well placed to, you know, use the word of mouth.
Yep.
Again.
Fantastic. Right. Fantastic. And so Desley, what's next? What's next for MADCAP? What else have you got to conquer? I mean, you've got the big ones already. What else is there?
Oh, there's plenty more. It's a huge industry worldwide, and I mean, you know, it keeps growing, believe it or not, because there's more people love dairy. It's very nutritious. So you know, we keep sort of using the latest technologies where it makes sense to be able to you know, provide more efficiencies for our customers. And one market we have seen, well, we believe the USA is a good market for us, as well as the South American market, and we're, you know, getting quite a few sales in there recently, and of course we've got a few new global customers, so you know, we're starting to work with them. So yeah, I think we'll be kept busy for some time.
That's fantastic. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up out of either of you?
Jeremy?
I don't know. I mean, for us, I guess we're just going to continue on and incorporate new technology, you know, where it makes a lot of sense for our customers, and try to ensure that, you know, we stay ahead, and that's all we can do, right? So obviously we want to keep expanding and keep getting better and all those things, and you know, we've got the platform to do that. So
yeah, and one thing we've been with the last few few years, there's a few different areas which we've you know, as Jeremy said, we keep wanting to improve. So anything that we need to redevelop or make better for our end user, the user interface, whatever, we continue to work on those. There's always plenty of jobs to do. And when we do all these things, it actually obviously makes it better for our clients, but it makes it better for our staff, and it makes it even easier to support. So, you know, we're just continuous improvement, I'd say, is what we do, we try and do.
That is fantastic, and really great, I think, for everyone to hear that, you know, you can be in the position that MADCAP is, and you keep going, you're still innovating, you're still learning, you're still, you know, making those connections, which I think is fantastic. It doesn't stop just because you've got an awesome customer base. But look, thank you to you both for taking the time and sharing some of your insights with the wider community. I really, really appreciate it. And obviously, anyone that wants to know more about MADCAP, you can jump on their website and take a look and get in touch with the team if you have any questions. So thank you to you both.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.